Just hoping you can just reiterate on the tariffs. What specifically would it take for Canada or Mexico to be exempt from these tariffs? And secondly, did you consider dairy the deal breaker when it came to Canada?
Dairy was a deal breaker. And now for our farmers, it's, as you know, substantially opened up, much more. And I know they can't open it completely. They have farmers also. You know, they can't be overrun. And I fully and I tell them that. I say, look, I understand you have limits, but they could do much better. And we've opened it up to our farmers. So the folks up in Wisconsin, I'll tell you what, I went to Wisconsin, I went to Iowa. Joni knows better than anybody, right? And Scott Walker, who I think is a fantastic governor, talks about it all the time, that our farmers were not treated properly by Canada. Now they're going to be treated with respect. They're going to be treated fairly. Or, as I say, in that reciprocal way. Very important. Yes, sir, go ahead.
Thanks, Mr. President. It seems there was some give and take on both sides for this deal. I wonder what, in your view, would be your biggest concession to Canada and why you decided to make that concession. Number two, if you could dive in a bit more to your thoughts on Justin Trudeau. You talk about tensions. I wonder what you, throughout this process, what you've learned about him and what the state of the relationship is with him today and going forward.
Well, I think my biggest concession would be making the deal. Because we are the one that people come and want to take from. I'm talking about every country. And that gives us a tremendous advantage in negotiating that we never used before with past administration. We never used it. Every deal we have is a loser. Every deal, you could look at almost every country in the world, almost every country. We have trade deficits. We lose with everybody. So I think my biggest concession was making the deal, because we could have done it a different way, but it would have been nasty and it wouldn't have been nice, and I don't want to have that. We have a great relationship with Canada. I think now it'll be better than ever. The only problem with Justin is he loves his people, and he's, fighting hard for his people. I think we've always had actually a very good relationship. It got a little bit testy in the last couple of months, but that was over this agreement, and I understand that. But no, I think Justin's a good person who's doing a good job. He felt very committed to his people, and that's what he did. And again, this is good for everybody. This is good for Canada, good for Mexico also. Yes, please, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. President. As you mentioned, you're going to be signing this agreement, and your counterparts are going to be signing this agreement within the next 60 days. Right. Then it's up to Congress. Right. You're very confident. I get that. You're a confident guy.
Not at all confident. I'm not.
Well,
I don't know.
Explain to me
Congress,
why you think that
tell me
if Congress
you guys
is
going to sign
by,
it, tell me. I think they will.
If Congress is controlled by Democrats,
could happen. Could be.
It could happen.
So they're willing
what?
to throw.
What are the prospects?
Yeah, they might be willing to throw one of the great deals for people. And the workers, they may be willing to do that for political, people or political purposes, because frankly, they'll have 2020 in mind. So far, I dream about 2020 when I look at what's going. They have 2020 in mind. They want to do as well as they can, and so trying to reject even great deals, like this is a great deal for our country, great for other countries, but it's a great deal for our country and great for our worker. I can't tell you whether or not they will obstruct, whether or not they will resist. I mean, their whole campaign is resist. I see their signs all resist. They don't even know what they're resisting. If you ask them, what are you resisting? Well, let me think about that. They can't ask. They had somebody on this weekend. They said, what are you resisting? And they were unable to answer the question. So, I can't tell you about delay, obstruct, resist, because, right after this election, and I think we're going to do well, although history is not on our side. I guess in history, generally whoever has the White House doesn't do well in midterms. But the one difference is we have the greatest economy in the history of our country. I think that's a big difference. And that's one of our problems, too, because people that went out and voted for me, and they would be voting for me if I was on the ticket, but I'm not on the ticket. But Congress is on the ticket. And I try and tell my people that's the same thing as me. In a sense, that's the same thing. Think of it as the same thing as me. But I think we're going to do well. I actually think. I mean, we have Senate races that weren't even in play 6 months ago. When I started looking at it closely, I won't mention names, but there were senators that were not in play. They were not even, and you know exactly what I'm talking about, numerous of them. They were not in play. In other words, let's not go here, let's not go to this state, 4 or 5 states. Now they're like even races. In one case, they're up 2 points. Now, who knows what that means? And, you know, as you know, there are a lot of them are repression polls or polls that aren't very accurate, because I see polls that I know are false having to do with certain of the races. But we had areas and we had congressional seats, too, where I know it's going to be a positive outcome. But you look at what's going on, and it doesn't seem to be broadcast that way. But I certainly had that with my election. They were telling me I was, you know, in trouble in certain states, that I end up winning in a landslide. And I knew I was going to win them in a landslide, but they wouldn't report it that way. You know why? Fake news. Okay. Right
One
behind
last thing,
you.
Mr.
Yes,
President.
right behind you,
Do you
please.
believe that the trade agreement will be a major issue in the midterm elections?
Well, it shouldn't be. Look, it's a good agreement. These people, you know, when I first did it, they said, oh, why don't you just extend NAFTA? They have no idea about business. Just extend NAFTA. That would have been a disaster. We're losing $100 billion a year in deficits, at least to Mexico under NAFTA. But just look at the results, and a substantial amount to Canada, although a lot of people try and say it's pretty much even. It's not even. We lose a substantial amount. So, you know, I think it's a very hard thing to defend, but that's all right. Look, I understand the world of politics, I think, as well as anybody. I haven't been doing it that long, but I actually have been, because I've been doing it on the other side. And I do understand, and, you know, they can take the greatest thing ever done and try and make it sound as bad as possible. But this one's tough. This one, people are coming out for this one and saying, that's incredible what we've been able to do. Yes, behind you, please.
Thank you, Mr. President. Now that you've answered several questions on trade, I'd like to turn to
Don't
Judge
do that.
Kavanaugh.
Do you have,
President,
excuse me, do you have a question on trade? We'll do one or two more questions on trade.
You answered several questions on
trade. Okay, don't do
trade.
that. That's not nice.
Mr. President,
and besides that, somebody is before you. Excuse me, don't do that. Do you have a question on trade?
You answered several questions.
Do you have
on trade.
a question on trade?
My question is on Judge
Kavanaugh. Okay, please, yes.
You said
please.
the FBI should interview whoever that they believe is appropriate. Does that include Julie Swetnick, the third accuser? And can you promise to release the full findings
give me
from
your
the
question,
FBI
please.
after they finish their report, Mr. President?
Give me your question, please.